Hi, everybody. How are you? I hope everybody's doing good. Back again with Miss Elizabeth to read another book. I like coming and hanging out with you guys while we read together. I hope you guys do. Thank you for taking the time to hang out and read. Today we have another pleasure reading book, something just for fun. Today we are going to read Paul Bunyan. I haven't read this story in 1,000 years. I was at the dollar store the other day and I saw it and I picked it up. So, let's see what the story of Paul Bunyan is about. There's a picture of him here. A long time ago, there was a baby that was so big it took not one, not two, but 5 storks to deliver him to his parents. The arrival of the big baby caused quite a stir in the small coastal Maine town, for no one had ever seen a baby of such an epic size before. Look at all those storks carrying that baby. The baby's proud parents named him Paul Bunyan. Now it's true that babies grow quickly, but Paul grew faster than any baby. He was always hungry and ate a huge amount of food. Just 1 week, Paul was so large that he was already wearing his father's clothes. That is a big boy. One night, when the ocean was peaceful and everyone in the town was nestled snugly in their beds, Paul drifted off to sleep. Too unfortunately, Paul moved around quite a bit in his sleep. In fact, he rolled around in his sleep so many times that he caused an earthquake. See how big he is compared to the houses? The people of the town moaned and groaned. It seemed like Paul was always disturbing the peace somehow, even when he did regular things that everybody did. And it was all on account of his huge size. "This just won't do," cried the townspeople. "Paul has to go." Oh, that's terrible. Paul had grown so big that his parents didn't know what to do with him. And so Paul's parents gathered up their things and took Paul deep into the woods. And that is where Paul grew up. From a young age, Paul could do many things that boys his age didn't or couldn't do very well. One of these things was wielding an axe. Because of his unusually large size, cutting down trees was easy for Paul. With one swift chop, he would take out several trees at once. By the time Paul was about 20, he had the strength of 50 men. He grew restless and decided that it was time to move west and seek new adventure. He said goodbye to his parents, and with his axe over his shoulder, he set off on his own. There he goes. He's taken off. Let's see where he goes. As Paul continued west, he encountered the most terrible snowstorm anyone had witnessed in ages. A dreadful chill crept across the land, and Paul found it harder and harder to carry on. See the snow and the trees. He's persevering, though, isn't he? Paul trudged along through the swirling snow, so thick he could hardly see. He found shelter in a spot of the woods where the trees were thick, and he built a fire. As he warmed himself by the fire, he heard a strange cry. "Ma! Ma!" Wonder what that sound is going to be. What could that be? Wondered Paul. He followed the sound, making his way through snowdrifts, until at last he came upon a large animal frozen in the snow. It was certainly no ordinary animal. It was a giant blue baby ox. Paul bent down and picked up the ox, and he carried him back to the fire to warm up. It was the sound of a baby ox. A big baby ox. Paul and the blue ox became fast friends. Paul named him Babe, and the two were inseparable. Babe continued to grow, and before long the horns on his head reached the top of the tallest trees. One day, Paul cut down trees with his trusty axe for the people in a nearby town. They needed the lumber to build all sorts of things like new houses, buildings, and barns for the growing population. Babe helped him with the work by rolling the logs to the river so they could float down to the sawmill. That would be useful. This gave Paul an idea. He and Babe could be traveling lumberjacks. That way they could see the country and help out people along the way. And they were already a great team. When they arrived at their first logging camp, the lumberjacks were certainly surprised. They had never seen such a giant man and an ox before. I am starting to remember this story. Like I said, it had been so long since I had read it, and it's pretty good. It's pretty good. Let's see what happens. At first, people were afraid because Paul and Babe were so large. But as they moved from forest to forest and from town to town, the gentle giants became the most famous lumberjack team in the land. Everywhere they went, they performed good deeds and helped people along the way. One time, Paul caught hundreds of fish with his bare hands and delivered them to the cook at the local lumberjack camp. Everyone was so pleased. The fish fed the lumberjacks for weeks. It's pretty nice. Another time, with one stomp on the ground with his giant hoof, Babe made a public pool for a town to enjoy during the hot summer days. Paul and Babe's good deeds were endless. It's a big hoof-shaped swimming pool. As they neared the end of their traveling days, Babe grew tired and thirsty. So Paul dug out the Great Lakes to provide him with drinking water. Then Paul turned to Babe and said, "It's time to settle down, Babe. Where shall we make our home?" That's when they settled on the edge of the Big Onion River in Minnesota, and they started their very own logging company. Well, that is cool because we live right by the Great Lakes. Minnesota is on this side, and we live over here. The whole map doesn't show, but that's pretty cool. So it's kind of a local story. That's neat. If you go up to, I think it's Taos, there's a lumberjack monument, lumberman's monument, and that's pretty cool. That's a fun place to go if you guys ever travel there. Paul spread the word, and that they were looking for lumberjacks to work at the logging camp. Thousands of men traveled from far and wide for the chance to work with Paul and Babe. Paul hired hundreds of lumberjacks, but the men he liked to work with the best were the biggest and the strongest of the bunch. They came to be known as the 7 Axemen, and each was named Elmer, so that when Paul called their name, they would all come running at once. That's pretty cool. I enjoyed that book. Oh, I'm sorry. That's not the end. Lucy the Purple Cow produced all the camp's dairy products. The camp's cook, Sourdough Sam, used her milk among the ingredients, to make his logging camp specialty, pancakes. The lumberjacks were very hungry men who could eat dozens of pancakes in just one sitting. Look at Lucy the purple cow. Make a ton of pancakes. They had such large appetites and ate so much that something had to be done. Paul turned to Ole Olafson, the master blacksmith, who had specially crafted Babe's giant shoes. Ole made a giant iron griddle so that Sam could cook a whole bunch of pancakes at once to fill all those hungry lumberjack bellies. Paul and Babe's logging company lasted for many, many years, and it became the biggest logging camp in the land. But it was not without a few snags along the way. Mosquitoes were a problem at the camp. The lumberjacks were getting bitten all over, and Paul had to do something. That's a big mosquito. Paul thought it was a good solution would be to bring in big bees to chase the mosquitoes away. But when the bees and the mosquitoes married each other, the problem only got worse. I did not know that the mosquitoes and the bees got married. One day the bees and the mosquitoes noticed a sugar boat that was bringing sugar to the camp. They swarmed the boat and became so full from all the sugar that they ate that they couldn't fly anymore and drowned in the river. Paul managed to save 2 mosquitoes who began to help the lumberjacks by drilling holes in the maple trees so that the lumberjacks could have maple syrup on their pancakes. Now we're getting into making maple syrup. Now, the lumber company is gone. But what about Paul and Babe? Well, their legend lives on. If you listen very carefully, the next time you're in the woods, you just may hear Paul's far-off call, "Timber!" Well, that was a cool book. It went off on a weird mosquito bee getting married tangent, but otherwise it was pretty cool. I remember the story now. I remember hearing it as a little girl, and I liked it then, and I like it now. I like that it has something to do with the Great Lakes. I love the Great Lakes, so that's very cool. Keep yourselves healthy and keep doing well. Keep reading books. Every week I'll come to you with some more books, and I hope you guys keep warm too, because it's freezing outside, and I don't know when it's going to warm up again. It's very cold. I planted some plants. I'm going to probably take you guys out and around and show you the yard again. So I'll show you the plants as long as they make it through this cold weather, because I've had a few not make it through. All right, love you guys a bunch, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.